Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Season 3 of the Common Time Podcast. We're so glad to have you here to continue bringing our conversations, insights, and inspiration for music educators everywhere.
Each week, we'll highlight voices from across the music world and share ideas that you can bring directly into your classroom and to your ensembles. And now, let's turn to our guest. Our guest today is Miguel Retto. Welcome, Miguel.
Hi, everybody. So awesome to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
We're so glad that you're with us, Miguel. So Miguel he's the 60th drum major of the Michigan Marching Band. He's a student at Michigan, and he is from East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, and he's also the first student that we've had on the Common Time podcast. So I'm excited to dig into his experience in band and all those things. So John, why don't you get us kicked off?
Yes. Hi, Miguel. It's always so good to see you. I am so proud of you and all that you do. So I want to start by asking you about your high school band experience. What are there any moments of that had a significant impact on you as a musician or the leader that you currently are, or how did that shape you as a person?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I do want to say it's an honor to be on the podcast as the first student here. So my high school experience was overall a really great one. I come from a really small program in Pennsylvania, East Stroudsburg High School. The band director there is Katie Klog, and I would say some experiences that really that I'd like to highlight with my time in high school. One, immediately when I got in to high school, I remember being really just in awe of the work ethic of my drum majors. That's where it really started for me. First was my freshman year drum major, and just really, really being inspired by how on point he was and how on top of the details he was, especially, at such a young age. And then going further on, I would say the most formative leadership experience I had from a drum major in my high school was my two drum majors, Frank Cloak and Katie Ung. We were going into the kind of COVID time. People were thinking that maybe we might go out of school, and they just in case delivered all of our instruments, just them two, to every single house to make sure that we could keep playing just in case school went out. And that was something that was, kind of simple, but that sort of servant leadership really was something that I realized was really, really important. And so that really shaped me in the middle. And then obviously my band director, I give so much, gratitude to her for everything that she taught me throughout my time. I would say the biggest thing that I take away from her, because, there's always sayings I think that you pick up on any educator and things that you remember. At this point now, it's been 5 years out, and a lot of those things I've forgotten. But the one thing that I do remember is really that in a lot of the lessons that she taught us in the classroom, she would always connect them to just being a good human being, listening to each other, having your details on point. All of these things are just related to being a good member of any group. And that was what I really took away from that experience with her and from that band program.
That's fantastic. What her name again was it Katie?
Katie Klog.
Katie Klog. Katie. Well, shout out to Katie. Well done, Katie. Those are great lessons. I love the servant leadership as well as just the idea of teaching, humanity. That's what we do as teachers. So as kind of looking back again, so we're going to just talk again about, your experiences, but what first drew you toward leadership in the band? You mentioned obviously the current drum majors, but I'm curious, when did you realize that being a drum major was something you genuinely wanted to pursue?
Yeah. So when I went into my band program, I had in middle school always seen the drum majors conducting, and I thought that was very cool. I never knew that I'd really be able to do that, but I did think it was a cool thing. But that never really was, I think, the big draw for me. I mentioned when I came in and just being inspired by my leaders, the biggest thing that I saw and really what resonated with me was that when you are a drum major or just really any leader in any organization, you have the opportunity to care for a group and really, really make it your goal to meet all of their needs. And that was something that was really, hit close to home. I come from a really tight-knit family, and it was almost modeling that in that, we all are there for each other. We're always making sure everyone is good and has everything, together. And that was something that really, really was enticing for me. to be able to help a large group and really put my care into them, and then see that impact in real time happen, whether that be a more a better environment for the students to
Yeah.
operate in, or other results on the field. All of those things I think were really really awesome to look at, and something that I really wanted to be a part of.
Yeah.
When I
Love it.
came into the University of Michigan, I met my freshman year drum major. I had no idea who he was, in line getting ready to measure our uniforms. And I remember just that fact, that I didn't even know who he was until way later in the conversation, him being down to earth and humble. And then just seeing the way that he served the band, the way that he taught everything, the way that, he had everyone's needs in mind, and the way he made me feel during that leadership. That was what
Mm.
really did it for me. And that's really when I started pursuing it at Michigan.
Yeah, that's excellent.
So then, just to speak a bit more broadly, and then just to kind of give some thought to the current teachers that are out there, because as we all know, the teaching profession right now is it's under a lot of scrutiny and pressure and stress, and it's a very challenging profession. It's a fabulous profession, but it's very challenging, and sometimes we just need to hear the little things that inspire us to keep going, or because so many teachers are really good at their job, right? So, and I know your high school band director, and she is fabulous, and I mean her students are successful all over the world, which is awesome. So, are you able to talk specifically about how she prepared you, or how a teacher can prepare a student, both musically or personally or culturally, to transition to the next phase in their lives, keeping in mind that the majority of students aren't going to study music, right? So you're going to do all kinds of things in every profession. So do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to first say that, obviously, with all the challenges, I have many friends now, graduating and starting their careers as band directors, and I get to hear those challenges. With that, I think that there's just such an opportunity every single day, especially in music education, to change someone's life, change someone's perspective on something, and make someone really a better person every single day. And so that opportunity is something that I really look up to. I think that was something that my band director kind of had at the forefront. She never really said it, but I could tell every day we were always learning something, and it was connecting the music to some kind of life lesson, some kind of story, that made it really, really awesome for the students to be able to connect that to their lives. I would say something that she did to really prepare me. I mentioned that, a lot of the things that we did in the band was just related to being a good human being. I think a really big thing that really helped me for the next stage was understanding when it's time to have fun, and when it's time to work hard. And those two things can exist. And it was really important for her to emphasize that it's good to have fun, but it's also really fun to be good at something. And so, we'd have moments in time during rehearsals, either marching band or concert band, where we would, goof off a little bit or laugh about something. But when it was time to work, we knew it was time to work. And I think that separation is kind of something that I've taken with me, something that I've found great success in. It's really important to have that balance of having fun, and that's something that I've done at Michigan. But then also really understanding that, when it's time to work and it's time to get something done, that to really lock into that attitude and that demeanor. So I think that was a big thing that she did that I really appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think when you go to college, there's a lot of fun to be had in college, but there's also a lot of work to be done. But I love that
Absolutely.
she was setting you up. It sounds to me like she really did create a culture, like in your program. Like she specifically had a culture in mind of the kind of, I would say musician, but really the kind of humans she was hoping to graduate, which is that's something I think about and talk about a lot with people I work with is like, who do you want to graduate? What does that person look like when they leave your program? And it sounds like Katie did a fantastic job of having that vision, but also then sharing that with, students like yourself, where you enter college prepared to do the work as well. So that's pretty exciting. John, were you going to add something? I thought you were going to chime
No,
in.
I
Nope.
no, I just I was just I'm always struck by the culture piece, just like you just said, right? And David is one of the smartest people I've ever met, and his instructional philosophy is it's people and process. And I've been talking about that a lot since we spoke about it a couple months ago because
Yeah.
it's so true. To have a successful band program, I truly, and by the way, it doesn't have to be a band program, it can be anything.
Yeah, anything.
Um,
Yeah.
anything. But specifically for us, it's about people and it's about the process, right? And so dealing with both, and it sounds like that Katie did both, either intentionally or unintentionally. It just that's a recipe of success, right? Because you have to build the environment, build the culture, but then the process has to be there, including knowing the content matter, right? So we've been talking for seasons now about the importance of teachers knowing the content that they are teaching. So important. But
Hmm.
that's not the most important. Having to build the culture with the people and the process is so important. So that was just what was kind
Yeah,
of
it
striking
really
me.
is. And that people process, I've actually expanded that. So people and process are sort of the two inside pillars, but I now have a first pillar now, which is purpose, which is the why, which is really the vision of what that student's going to look like when they graduate. And then that leads to people and process. But then on the back end, I've added presence, which is it's sort of the anchor of joy that
Mm.
we can use and we should be using in our rehearsal spaces. And I say rehearsal, it's not. It could be a business. It could be anything. We're watching this show on television, my wife and I, about Michelin stars and how restaurants get a Michelin star. And sometimes I'm looking at these kitchens going like, they need to listen to my course because the presence of the space is so angry or so tense or so there's no joy happening. And they're what they're trying to do is win a star, which is going to create joy for someone at a table eating their food, which is like, wow, there's just a disconnect in that. At least I think that when I'm watching this show, but it always kind of goes back to the culture and people and process. So I'm kind of glad that came up. I want to talk a little bit about like going from high school to college, like what the path was like arriving on campus to ultimately becoming the drum major. Like what was that like for you, your experiences? I'd like to hear just more about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I will say it's been a wild journey, and a lot of things have happened that I never expected would. But when I came on campus, I'm first person from my family to really pursue a degree at this in this country, and so my parents really didn't know much about the college process. So nothing against them; they just didn't understand. They brought me to
Right.
college, kind of just dropped me off, and they were like, "Good luck, have fun." So there was a lot of things I had to discover and learn on my own. I distinctly remember moving into my dorm all by myself. Thankfully, the marching band had a moving company that I was able to get all my stuff, to the dorm. But that was just kind of on the sidewalk, and that was an experience. A lot of learning things along the way. But the biggest thing was on day one, besides those little challenges, I had a family on day one with the Michigan Marching Band. I had a bunch of friends that I could rely on, people that were just looking out for me in general. And that was very, very helpful for me to acclimate to the university and university life. Um, I was a freshman playing tenor saxophone in the band. Played the entire year and loved it. I was also inspired by my leaders and the way that they really took care of all of us. That was something I wanted to pursue. I ended up
Mm-hmm.
being a rank leader, which is another leadership position in the marching band, and a section leader. And all throughout that time, I was doing lots of other things on campus, like ballroom dancing, um,
Nice.
He's a
with some other
fantastic
Ballroom
service
dancer.
dancing. I
Yeah.
groups.
love it.
Yeah.
Yes. Did I
Um,
saw you dance with the dancers at this was on television like a couple of weeks ago, right?
yeah, yeah,
That was
yeah.
quite
That was
impressive.
so
Yeah.
much fun. Great
Excellent.
crossover.
Yeah.
So, um, and so yeah, just developing as a leader within the band was something that was really, really fruitful and meaningful to me. It really developed me as a person and honed my skills in a lot of different things. Throughout the middle of my time in college, I went through some significant struggles. I would say we went through some deaths in the family and some just health issues with some parts of my closer family.
Mm.
And during that time, I think this is the case with a lot of college students where they have a point where they're really questioning, is this for me? Like, can I make this? Can I make it through? And so, I can't lie, that was something that was on my mind definitely through the middle. But there was always something, um, especially related to the band, that just kept telling me in the back of my mind, like, just keep investing in this, like, keep giving it your
Right.
best shot. There's something good at the end. And so with that, I continued to train all throughout that to be a drum major. And during that time, I think it reflected in the audition that I had, and I didn't get the position. I'm someone that always says that any of those little setbacks and failures are really, really awesome opportunities to grow and improve. And so
Love
I
it.
left that position after having gone through it a few times, not making it through, and just saying to myself, this is a great opportunity to grow and move forward and really put myself into something. And so in that last opportunity that I had, I knew I was going to be returning for this semester of school. I said I'm going to give it one last shot, and things turned out well.
Yeah.
uh, distinctly remember after the audition being as happy as could be. Not after I was named, just right after the audition, because I felt that I had finally put my full effort into this, and that I really was able to show everything that I had. And so
Yeah.
that was awesome, and it was a great opportunity. And yeah, the rest is history for me. So
Yeah, that's great.
it
So
was,
you mentioned your
yeah.
parents and not having not gone to college before, not really familiar with that experience. Mine were the same. They dropped me off and waved goodbye. That was it. But I'm curious, what drew you to go to college? Like, I mean, obviously you were in high school band, but what was the mindset of like, hey, I have to go to college, or like, and then continuing in bands? I'm kind of curious. Was there some catalyst that said, hey, I want to do this and I want to go continue being a musician as well?
Yeah, absolutely. When I was growing up, I'd always liked to tinker with kind of small electronics. And so it was something that I always wanted to do, really just messing around with electronics, doing engineering kind of things. So when I was growing up, I was figuring maybe I'd like to be an engineer.
Ah,
And so
gotcha.
in that research, and with my parents kind of supporting me, they were like, "Hey, you probably should go through this." And so Michigan was on my radar. I remember when I was doing research on all of the different colleges that I wanted to go to, one thing I knew I wanted to do was marching band. Um, I wanted to
Gotcha.
continue doing that because it was so much fun in high school. And then I remember seeing a video of all those maize and blue people in the Michigan marching band
Right.
entering the big house and just folding it out into the big block M. And I was
Block
like,
M, yeah.
okay, I have to go there. I need to be in that band. So it was those two things. I mean, one, Michigan's a great university, and two, the band was amazing, and is amazing after having experienced it for so many years. And so that was something that really drove me to be in the marching band and in the university.
That's great. Go blue.
Go
Go
blue.
blue.
So
Absolutely.
It's a great band.
hey, thanks. I'm sitting right here. But Miguel, making the transition from high school to college, when I talk to prospective students, um, I would argue one of the biggest one of the biggest concerns that they have is the experience between the two, right? Because it's obviously vastly different. I mean, you still have an instrument, you're still wearing a uniform on a football field. Everything else is different, right? It's a high school experience on steroids in a way, right? And sometimes that can be overwhelming, right? So, one, are you able to talk about any kind of surprises that you had, or anything that kind of that was just like, whoa, I didn't expect that from a high school to college band transition, or well, and do you have any advice to teachers on how they can help prepare their students? Because I do believe, well, I want all the students to come to Michigan, of course, but they should continue
Of
playing.
course.
Of course, I want every student to continue music in some part of their life, right? So do you have any advice to teachers, and did anything surprise you through your own journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that my band director did a really great thing throughout our time in the program, in that she always had scheduled visits or kind of field trips to college performances. So anything that was
Hmm.
local, she would have us get exposed to that. We'd go all on a bus, which is great. Bus trips are awesome, with all the friends, and really just see what it's like. And so I got to see very early on what college bands look like,
Hmm.
what they sounded like, what the people in them were like, what the directors were like. And that was really something that was amazing. I couldn't even believe that that would be an opportunity for me in the future. Like I said, I came from a really small program. So my program was around 50 people, including our guard, which was very large. Um, And so, being able to see those bands and seeing how they operate was something that was amazing. So I immediately had that exposure. I think another thing that she did really well. So she was a member of the Penn State Blue Band, just telling stories and giving her experiences with college marching band, the lessons that she learned during that time, also the really great things that she got from it.
Hmm.
Things like bowl trips are kind of really not, you can't really understand what that's like until you've done one.
It's
But
true.
really just understanding that, and like, the college football space, all those things that she shared with us, I think really gave me a good taste and good perspective on what college marching band would be like. I think when I got to Michigan, a huge thing that I was surprised with was just the scale of everything. Even thinking about it now, like I'm getting goosebumps. But like the very first time I went into the big house, I had never seen anything that large in my life ever. And so performing in that space was something that was just a shock for me. I remember really kind of almost blanking the first time I was performing, and Dr. Pasquale was like, "Just play every note, just play every note." So I was like, "Okay, I'm just gonna play every note." Like,
That's
um,
right.
and so that was really great. I think the biggest thing that surprised me, though, coming into this program was just how much of an effort the student leadership team, especially with having such a large program, having so many resources to be able to bring up a great leadership team, the amount of effort that they took to obviously, one, care for the students, but two, make them better. We have a system really in the marching band where we're always constantly improving throughout the entire year. And so having that candid feedback loop always with the student leaders, and the student leaders always seeking to better not just the people that they're helping but also themselves. The feedback loops that we have in our leadership team as well, like meeting with the directors every week and just talking about different things. That was really something that was amazing to me and really inspiring, and it was surprising to me that the student leadership team at the college had such a identity of its own, and how self-sufficient and how well it was able to run as a team. So
Yeah.
all those things together, I think, were big surprises for me at the university.
Those are great. I especially like, I just want to point this out, that your high school band director took the initiative to take you to see and hear collegiate performances, connecting those dots between this kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Like, what kind of student do I want to graduate? Hopefully a lifelong music person. Whether or not you're going to be an engineer, but still look at you. You're leading the Michigan Marching Band and being a huge component of that family, and also the future, the history and the future of the program. How cool is that? That started, the genesis of that was with your high school band director. I think that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just really think that's pretty awesome. So let's talk about being drum major. When you step on the field, I want to know a little bit about what that's like. I know the big house is awesome. So I want to know a little bit about what that experience is like for you. But then I want to flip it a little bit and ask you, what do you feel is like, what's your responsibility in terms of carrying forward to future leaders, and then also kind of, I guess, being responsible to the people that came before you as well. Like, you're in a really unique position as the drum major of the Michigan Marching Band. I know it's a long question. Sorry.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It is completely surreal is the only word I can say when you enter the big house. I've said this before to some of my family and friends, but I wish I could just download my memories and put them in someone else's brain, because it
Yeah.
is so amazing. And I'm really grateful to be a person that gets to experience that. Performing with the band is amazing. I think one of the most awesome things about game days is that I get to interact with our fan base, and people who enjoy the band and support the band. Those are just some of the most wonderful and some of the most just very human interactions that I love.
Right.
You mentioned what kind of responsibility I might feel towards the leaders that have come before me and the leaders that will come after me.
Right.
And I think we talk a lot about the amazing legacy that we have in the marching band, and that every year we're always building on the previous iteration. And so something that my predecessor, when he was, helping me, training me, and getting me prepared for this position, he told me, "I want you to be better than me. And so here's how I'm going to do that. And here are the things that I'm going to give you to make you better."
Hmm.
And so I feel that responsibility to carry that on to the next person that's after me. I've tried my best in this role, and I've have one more home game left,
Right.
a couple more performances,
It's a
but
big one coming up.
It's coming up.
big one, very big one.
Yeah.
But I've always got my mind on the future of who's going to come after me, and how are they going to be better and do better than I've done. So that's a big thing that I carry with me. Something that I'm always thinking about, like constantly throughout the season. If there's something that happens, and I'm like, I think the next person can be better prepared in this way. I'm writing that down. I'm noting that, and I'm making sure that the next group of leaders, and that's not just drum majors, can have that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my answer to that.
That's great.
So we talked about this a bit ago, but now, do you have any advice for high school students who are considering participating in college music in any form?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So I will say, for any high school student out there that's thinking about doing anything music related in college, first, just go for it. Absolutely go for it. College is a time where lots of things change. And if you have experience with music, you probably know that it's a really great community to be in, and a really great thing to do just personally. And so that's one thing that can carry over into your college experience, something that can really help you just have a group of friends, have a good community, and have something to work towards, besides academics, whether that's going to music school or whether that's doing other things. So I would say that's a big thing. I would say. Second, I would also say, at least personally, when I was looking into the college space, when you're in your high school program, there are so many opportunities for you to shine, especially if you're in a smaller group. And so I had experienced a lot of success in my program, and I remember being really afraid of failing. Honestly, going to a college program and not being the best or the smartest or the most talented musician in the room. Looking back on that, I wish I would have just told myself to not be afraid of that, and that it's okay. Eventually, that's going to happen. Eventually, you're going to be in a space where there's amazing people, and when you're in that environment, again, it's an opportunity to bring you up. So many of the amazing leaders and so many of the amazing smart individuals that I met at the university, so much, on paper, whatever, better, smarter, better at their instrument than me. That really brought me up and really made me someone that is so much better on all those fronts than I would have been. And so just don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there and put yourself at risk of falling short and failing. Because again, all of those things are really just givens in your future. And all of those things will make you so much better than you ever could imagine that you could be. So that's what I would say. And I guess last little point with that, something that I really took away from my time in the Michigan Marching Band was actually a conversation with Wynton Marsalis. He was talking to our entire group, and he told us that your instrument will take you so much farther than you ever think. And that is so true. Just continuing to play your instrument, that will put you in spaces that you never thought you'd be in. And so I would also say that to any high schoolers out there.
So I do have a follow-up question before David takes the last one. Do you have any, or do you have any thoughts about things that you think that college band directors should know from a student perspective that we don't know? What do we need to know to do better? Do you have any thoughts on that?
That's a really great question.
I mean, obviously nothing here because,
I was going to say, not that there's anyone here that
I
would
mean,
benefit from this.
but for people that don't know, we take student feedback extremely seriously. And I mean, we have a pretty rigorous method to kind of collect and curate that, because at the end of the day, it's all about student experience. And, so, but I'm just curious, Miguel, from a student perspective, do you have anything that we need to know to improve your experience?
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, generally, there are specifics, but
yes, yeah. So I think a big difference, at least in my mind, from what I see in high school programs versus when you go to university, is that in high school, a lot of students might almost feel obligated to continue doing their band education or continue being a student in band. Once they get into university, there are so many things, a wide plethora of things to invest their time into. And so one understanding that a student is in your ensemble to enrich their life and to enrich their experience at college and university. I think having that in the forefront of how you care for your students really matters. So giving them an experience that's enriching, giving them an experience that makes them feel like they're supported. College students are going through some of the most challenging times in their lives, either personally or just academically. All of those challenges make doing extra things a choice, and those things can be
Right.
difficult. Something that made the marching band really just seamless to add into my life was that it's got really great culture, and like you mentioned, student experiences first, and we really feel that. And so a student body that feels that their experience is first really flourishes, and I think really is willing to dig into that experience. So I know that's kind of a broad answer, but I think
No, that's
that
great.
that's
No,
something that's
and
important.
and then just as a follow up to that, I mean, times right now are complicated in across the globe in every aspect. From the student experience on a college campus right now, or even as a high school experience or middle school, I mean, any kind of student experience. Do you have any thoughts about what we need to know as teachers to help our students thrive in this very challenging environment that we currently live in?
Yeah, I think with all of the uncertainty, just all kinds of things going on in the world, something that students will kind of hold on to, and something that I think students will need is just that constant support, and that
Mm.
in the band, any leadership or organization that you have, that group of people is always there for them, no matter what, no matter what's going on in the world. That this is staying constant, and this experience is something that we're going to continue to have. This is a safe space for you to be in, and this is going to continue to be a good thing for you, no matter what goes on. That is something that's really really great and supporting.
Yeah, that's great information, Miguel. Thank you for sharing that. It also makes me want to talk to John a little bit more about your culture there. John, that sounds like another episode we need to put into the future of like let's get into the granular the nuts and bolts of like what it is that you're providing the students. So that's later, but now I'm just socking that away. To wrap up, Miguel, I'm curious, just looking ahead, how do you see the lessons that you've learned from marching band? We say marching band, but music specifically that is going to shape your life beyond college, and that could be professionally or personally, musically. Just what have you learned?
Yeah, I've learned so many things, and interestingly, I'll be working in the consulting space after I graduate, and having worked as an intern and worked in the industry for a brief amount of time, I've
Mm.
seen that a lot of those lessons that we learn, especially on the leadership side, translate over. One, just a big thing and something that I've talked about is not being afraid to put yourself out there, or giving yourself risk to fall short and fail. I think those things are really important. That's a really important thing to do in any kind of working environment. And when you're trying to solve problems, things aren't going to work out. And so just not being afraid to do that, I think, has brought me really much further than I would have otherwise. Another one is knowing how to operate within a group. When you're in an ensemble, what you're really doing is interacting with a group of people all the time. You're working in a large group to get one goal done, and there's not many other experiences that allow you to do that. And so I think just being in the music space for so long, I've gotten good at knowing how to work towards one goal as a group together, and knowing what groups of people need in order to do that.
Mm.
Um, and so that's a big thing that I take with me. Whether the teams are small, I'm like, this is, when I'm on a small team, I'm like, this is like a small rank leadership team on the band. And these are the things that these people need. And these are the experiences that I've had before to make a group of people work better. Or whether the groups are larger too.
Right.
Those are big things that I take away.
Yep. Great information.
You are so impressive, Miguel. Man, I love it.
Yeah.
Here's a point in the conversation where we ask all of our guests the same three questions. So, uh, I'll go first, and it is: do you have a soapbox topic? Now, that can be about anything in your
What's your
life. We talk
soapbox?
about music education, but do you have a soapbox topic that you want to talk about?
Oh my goodness, that's a good one to spring on me. Um, Man, okay. I think that everyone should move their body to music more. I think that that's something coming from Latino Filipino background. We move our bodies to music a lot, and I think that a lot of, early music was meant to be moved to, and that's kind of being lost a little bit in newer stuff. Not that that's an issue, but it's a really great thing to be able to move your body and be able to dance and work with music and interact with it in that way. And I think it's another thing that brings people together. So I think that's something that everyone should know how to do, is dance with someone or dance to music.
Love it. I love it. We don't. It's really interesting when you think about the culture of dancing. I don't know. We're kind of digressing here, but the culture of dance has been lost. I mean, there was a time where it was part of culture to have balls and to go to dances and to learn specific dances that go to certain kinds of music, and everybody knew how to do it. Like, you were taught it, and that's not really in different cultures the same way. Like, you would have like salsa or merengue. Like, you knew these things. You grew up doing them, and that has kind of gotten lost in our society. I've not thought about that until you mentioned it, but that's a great soapbox to get on. The next question, I'm just curious, has there been a particular book or books that have inspired you just in your life journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So I will preface this by saying that I'm really great at starting books and I'm terrible at finishing them. So there's
No
a few books that I haven't read fully through. I think a really great one that's leadership oriented is Leaders Eat Last. I believe that's the title of the book. That's a really great one, just tied and related to servant leadership. And there's so many examples within that book of, things that the author went through, but also just things that you can pull away and apply to leadership generally, broadly. Another one that I've liked is Thinking Fast and Slow, I believe. I'm forgetting the full title of that one. But anyway, just breaking down, how to think about the way that you think in a positive way and break that down. And so I think those are two main books that in the leadership space that I really enjoyed.
Great.
And finally, Miguel, and arguably the most important question we have for today, and that is, what is your favorite time signature?
Oh man. Okay. I think I really like 6/8. I think 6/8 is wonderful. I played lots of songs that I've really enjoyed thoroughly in 6/8, so that's my answer.
That's a great answer, Miguel. I'm afraid that the correct answer was Common Time.
I see.
No.
So terrible.
It's terrible. We
You
have
set
to
me up
cheese
with
it
that
every
one.
time. We did.
I know. I'm so sorry. It's terrible.
Miguel, thanks so much for your time today. It's been really, it's been inspirational to hear you talk about your experience from high school through college and how that's affected you and how you're going to honestly lead your life. So I appreciate you sharing that with all of our listeners and for being on today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Miguel.
That's it for today's episode of the Common Time Podcast.
And thank you for spending time with us. We hope that today's conversation will give you something useful to take back to your students and your program.
And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure you subscribed so you don't miss what's coming up. And if you know another director who might benefit from this, please share it with them.
Also, don't forget, you're able to nominate a music educator for our Standing Ovation program. The link to submit is in the show notes below.
Thanks again for joining us on the Common Time Podcast. As always, keep making music and keep making a difference.